Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this debate to order. My name is Zach Oberg. I'm the coach. I'm the coach of Telecom Paris, and I have the pleasure of welcoming you here as your chairman. So, welcome to Telecom Paris. Welcome to the last quarterfinal debate of the 2022 FDA tournament tonight between Assas and École des Ponts. Here. The winner of tonight's debate will qualify for the semi-final round, which will take place somewhere at some time, yet to be confirmed, and they will face off against Supero, who consequently defeated Telecom on Friday. No, they were very good. So to quote the 90s rock band Oasis, "Don't look back in anger, I heard you say." I'm pretty sure that reference is old enough that it won't be stealing lines from anybody here tonight. Because that is the topic of tonight's debate. This house would never look back. So, first, it is my pleasure to introduce the wise and impartial members of tonight's jury who have taken their time out of their busy schedules to come all the way out to the Plateau de Saclay and judge tonight's debate. We have Robert Bradford, coach for INSEC and treasurer of the FDA. We have Alexis Chalopin from Sciences Po's 2017. Kassem Lefki from the Université Paris-Saclay. Armance Matthieu, sorry, pretty close. Yeah. From ENS in 2019. And Elena Moulin-Smith from Nanterre, winner in 2016, and the high school officer of the FDA. Now, allow me to introduce the debaters who have been working tirelessly on their arguments and speeches during the past week. First, the proposition, coached by Gabriel Smart and Ren Sellers, the debate team for Assas. The first speaker and Prime Minister is Vincent Ledoux. The second speaker, depending on how you say it, the first speaker, Maria Signon. Next we have Lyna Sedik. Then Rayan Stefan. And finally the whip, Célia Aissou. Clearly I've practiced these before. Now I'd like to move on and welcome the debaters from Ponts et Chaussées, coached by Kyle Wynedy, debate team. The first speaker being Mélisande Duald, followed by Aminata Diallo, Matthieu Silberzan, Eloi Tranquier, and Jérémie Lecoutre. Arguably, the most important person here tonight, keep the debate running on time, head of the language department and coach of Central Superlex, now officially semi-finalist team, Didier Madrigal. For those of you unfamiliar with FDA debating, I don't know if there are any of you out there, but I'm going to go through it anyway. The debate will be judged on 5 equal criteria. Number 1, the quality of the arguments. Secondly, the form and structure of the speech. Thirdly, the teamwork shown between the debaters. Fourth, engagement. And finally, the one that everyone loves, the je ne sais quoi, or star quality. Speeches tonight will be 6 minutes long. They will have 1 minute of protected time at the beginning and at the end. Protected time means that debaters cannot be interrupted by a POI, or point of information, which is, of course, a question. It must be short and to the point. Unfortunately, POIs can only come from the debaters tonight, so we will ask you to hold your questions until after the debate when the jury is deliberating. To indicate the end of protected time, our illustrious timekeeper will ring the bell after 1 minute. A second bell will be rung after 5 minutes to indicate. And a final bell at the 6th minute to indicate the end of the speech. And should a debater decide to be a bit long-winded and continue to speak after that, she will be more forceful with her ringing until the speaker decides to sit down. Finally, a point of order can be asked if the debater feels that there has been a procedural problem or a use of unparliamentary language. This must be addressed directly to me. The timekeeper will stop the time and I will make a ruling on the point of order, but we're going to keep it all above the belt tonight, of course. Now, I can see that we have a fine audience tonight, perhaps a little thin, but it's a Monday night. So thank you all for coming. Normally I say that silence is one of the hardest arguments to refute, but we only welcome the silence of your mobile phones. I don't know if I need to, since there's no network in, you won't have any signal unless you're on that room, so I'm not too worried about that. When you, dear audience, agree with what is being said, you will cry. Hear, hear. Come on, guys. You will cry. Hear. Much better. And if you disagree with what is being said, you will cry. Shame. Now, turn the page. So, with that out of the way, I will call upon the first speaker of the government, Vincent.
Okay.
Si tu parles fort, ça marche.
Yeah, just project, it'll pick it up.
Much is to mix.
Don't speak directly into it, because otherwise it'll
Is that good here?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Fine.
You're here!
Thank you. Dear chairperson, if I don't look back at you, it's because I'm too impressed by your charisma.
Here, here.
Dear timekeeper, I'm dying to hear you ring the bell, so that we could all move ahead. Dear jury, you are the very reason why we won't look back tonight. Fellows of the government, same goes for you. Dear members of the opposition, how is your torticolis going? Dear audience, if you don't want neck problems, well, 1, listen to us, 2, hear us, and 3, never look back. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I once wondered, my God, why are men so evil? Did I do anything wrong? Did I fail at the task you gave me? Please, my God, if I did, send me a sign. And then, a seagull pooped on me.
No shit.
I looked up, and this dude, who likes like Santa Claus, appeared in the sky. He told me, listen, lad, in 7 days, I will flood the earth. Until then, you must build an ark, gather all the animals on it, and most of all, never look back.
Here, here.
As you might have guessed, I am Noah from the Bible. You know the rest of the story. I built the ark, I took all the animals on it, even my wife. I should have taken the dinosaurs instead. And most of all, I never looked back. Actually, it was such good advice that tonight, we want to convince you that this house would never look back as well. Here is how we understand the motion. Looking back is dwelling on the past. It's ruminating about your past feelings. When we say we would never look back, we are not saying that we're not denying that we are products of our past. We learned from it, we know it. We are just saying that we refuse to be prisoners of this past.
Hear, hear.
Never looking back is a state of mind.
Confirmation.
Just a moment, where you don't regret anything and you believe what's best comes next. Please.
How did you learn from something you didn't even look at?
It's part of us, you don't have to look at it.
Hear,
Hear.
Tonight, 3 animals of my boat will tell you the reasons why we will never look back. Our first speaker is a peacock. The peacock is a wonderful exotic blue bird.
Hear, hear.
The tail of this bird is actually so big that he never knows where to put it. Yeah, obviously we don't all have the same problems in this room. The peacock is also very good at dancing to seduce females. I took lessons with him and it worked. I am now constantly surrounded by chickens in heat. Oh, don't be fooled though. The peacock doesn't only have great feathers, he also had great arguments. And here they are.
Hear.
1. The past cannot be changed, so being stuck in the past is a waste of time. 2. Never looking back enables us to enjoy our present, plan for our future, and it gives us hope.
Hear, hear.
Then you will meet our second speaker, the cougar. You know, the mountain lion who got on board. Oh, she's hungry all the time, but on the other hand, I'm not really concerned she will catch me. I mean, I am an old man and she is more on fresh meat.
Hear, hear.
It's terrible. She's a real beast when it comes to arguments, of course. Yeah, what did you think? And here will be her 2 arguments tonight on why we should adopt the motion. 1, when we look back, we ruminate negative feelings and it's toxic. 2, when we look back, the past paralyzes us and prevents us from seizing the day.
Hear, hear.
Then you will meet our third speaker, the panda.
Hear, hear.
There are 2 remarkable things you need to know about the panda. First one is, he is the living proof that you can be fat just by eating greens. Second one, he is so lazy that he needs to be shown videos to manage the, facts of life.
Hear, hear.
Yeah, if you are to bring him in your bed, then don't expect him to be more than a furry toy. He knows how to argue though, and here will be her 2 arguments on why we would never look back. 1, looking back holds civilization back.
Hear, hear.
2, looking back creates prejudice and stereotypes.
Hear, hear, hear.
Hear, hear.
Finally, you will meet our whip, the ark. You know, the ark. Yeah, it's a pity it's my wife and not Rose. Yeah, I'd rather hit an iceberg, honestly. The ark will put to rest all of your doubts on why this house will never look back, and should I say it, she will sink the arguments of the opposition.
Points of information.
Yes, please.
Isn't your whip the one who looks back at the debate and makes a conclusion?
Here, here.
On the contrary, she's living in the present. She's leaving the debate. How is that looking back?
Hear.
Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, don't look back and ask, why? Look ahead and ask, why not? And please, adopt the motion.
Hear, hear.
Thank you, Vincent, or should I say Noah, for your buoyant speech. I would now like to introduce the call to the podium, the first speaker for the opposition, Mélisande.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is an honor to be with you here tonight. Dearest government, we've already met on the 23rd of January at Université Panthéon-Assas Paris 2.
Here.
This later delicious debate, this latter exquisite debate, we look back upon and shall cherish in our hearts. My fellow members of the opposition, led by their gracious queens, are determined, with the help and cooperation of Assas, to deliver another delightful debate, while you'll be sure the wise judges will be sure to look back upon favorably. Honorable Chairperson, thank you for welcoming us tonight in this grand amphitheater at Telecom, home of the championship debate team. Precise timekeeper, may you remind us that time is fleeting, and soon this debate will be a memory, soon as well to be cherished in our hearts. Good evening to you all, and welcome to my Platinum Jubilee. In order to celebrate tonight, we must look back. I, Elizabeth II, Elizabeth Alexandra Mary, by grace of God, the United Kingdom of Great Britain, Northern Ireland, and other realms, well, the list is long, I'll make it short. You shall address me tonight as Your Royal Highness, or Your Majesty. I'd like to keep it plain.
Shame.
Things do go beautifully, Assas, but I'd like to come back, well, Noah, should I say. And I'd like to come back on a few points you went through, well, to look back at them. First, do I seem I have a torticollis? I do not think so. Such a vigorous body. Well, also we'll be coming back on the definition you gave. It's not dwelling in the past. It's look at it. Take a glimpse. Have a glance. You fear of being paralyzed, that I didn't understand. But do I seem paralyzed in my 95 years of age? While looking back at all my life? That I believe not. Well, as you're well aware, I've had many a government and many a PM. And the thing is, I've outlasted quite a few, if you know what I mean. Some were more talented than others, almost so than the current government, because the problem is that this government believed this house would never look back. In this foolhardy motion. Well, no sooner had I received the motion for my tea time than I rushed into my favourite Cambridge dictionary, and it reads, first, the package expression, never look back, which amounts to continue to be successful after doing something with good result, which we are sure Assas will not argue about.
Shame.
Then came the page-turning fantasy, which starts tackling the motion, not letting the past even enter your mind, because you have decided out of remorse, out of regret, out of courage, for fear of being paralyzed, as you said so rightfully, dear government, to look at it, or out of mere laziness, just to look at some period of your life. Yes.
Is looking back precisely the reason why we have remorse and regret?
Well, that's what you suggested in your definition, at least. And finally, the principal definition for tonight, to not think about something that happened in the past. For example, well, if I look back at this debate, that's an example of the look back, I cannot help but wonder, what was the formula for the Queen's eternal life Lexis, such vigorous body? Well, spoiler alert, I discovered it. She's dead. And indeed myself and my 95 years of age looked back several times at different periods of my life, as I'm sure most of you young people already have. Maybe not the government, but still. Now I want you to close your eyes and imagine looking back at your last fascinating lesson in college, at your 18th birthday, at your first friends, at your first day at schools, your first kiss, or even first hangover. Hard blows, that I can understand. Or maybe at your first FDA debate.
You're here.
Here. Please pick the moment that touched you the most. But then, and the government did not raise that point, looking back is also looking for the ones that you leave behind.
At that point, man.
At my dear Philip. No, thank you.
Shame.
Looking back is about enjoying good memories from the past that live within you. Face problems and go ahead to find solution.
You're here.
And so the government would have you never look back. Poppycock, go ahead.
Why don't you fix your problems in the present?
That's what I do, but helping with the past as an advice.
You're here.
You're here.
Now for my Platinum Jubilee, I have invited several illustrious guests, each and every of them a pioneer in their own field. This time machine of mine is giving you the opportunity to look back. Seize it. It is with great pleasure that I present a man of conviction, a humble man for whom I admire his courage. I give you Martin Luther King.
You're here.
My next guest was a leader of the Enlightenment who would inspire the former person. He will show us that looking back is essential when it comes to democracy, justice and science. I give you Rousseau.
You're here.
Our fourth speaker led the way for philosophers such as Rousseau and talked about tradition, ancestry, social behavior, and is still revered in China for his teaching. I give you Confucius. Last but not least, let us think of the future generation and do with them. I give you the committed and insightful Malala Yousafzai.
You're here.
Only by looking back may we move forward. Please reject the motion.
Thank you, Mélisande, for your royal speech. I now call upon the second speaker of for Assas, Matthieu.
Dear Chairperson, there's ordinary, and then there's you.
You're here!
Splendid timekeeper, please ring your precious bells and send us all into the sounds of the future.
You're here.
Virtuous jury, our future would look brighter with you on board. Dear members of the opposition, wait, what's up? Sorry, excuse me. Oh, I'm sorry, our boat is full at the moment.
You're here!
Visionaries of the government, I'm looking forward to every opportunity with you by my side. Charming audience, thank you all for being here, and good evening.
You're here.
Now I will analyze in the present the arguments of the Shadow Prime Minister. Well, I would like to say first, even though you're the Queen, You listen to your government, so I guess you should listen to us.
Here, here.
You talk about good memories, but how about nostalgia? What if you have a bad present and then you look back at the good memories you had before and then it's all bittersweet and you actually feel worse? And you actually talked, but the things you talk about, this is actually not our definition because we already looked in the back before when it actually happened. So we don't learn from the past necessarily, we actually learn from the present as it comes because every single event of the past was once a present in fact.
Here,
And we know, we move on and we enjoy our present. Well, we're not saying we don't let the past enter our minds. We say that in our definition, we are products of our past. We are not letting it become prisoners of it.
Here, here.
Well, we thought about it, we move on, and now we look further at other debates, and we would like to, in fact. And even if we don't, well then, okay, we learned a lesson right now, and then we move on. Well, now allow me to introduce myself. I am the peacock. You know, the beautiful, vibrant bird that will murder you if you tease it enough. Yeah, that's me.
Here, here.
Not exactly as cute as the panda. Well, at least God gifted me with a huge tail.
Here, here.
Now, do you think it's funny to look like a turkey on LSD? Oh, I love the blood-curdling shriek that peacocks make, said no one ever. Now, did I get stuck in the past when cool birds like eagles used to bully me in bird school? No, I embraced who I was. I let go of the past. And now I focus on the future. And trust me, boys, the ladies are into that. That being said, this else, yes.
We're talking about looking back, not being stuck in the past.
But looking back is also being stuck in the past. You're dwelling on the past. Every single time you're going to look back at the memory, you're going to spend time in the past when you could spend time in the present.
Here, here.
That being said, this house would never look back because first, it's a waste of time. The past cannot be changed. And second, because it allows us to enjoy the present and gives us hope for the future. This brings me back to my first argument. This house would never look back because it's a waste of time. The past cannot be changed. Just think about it. The past is the past. It's done. It's over. There is nothing you can do about it. As I said, we are products of our past, but we don't become prisoners of it. We're talking about a mindset. In fact, we're talking about a philosophy, a way of thinking and behaving that will make you successful and happy, as our leader, Noah, explained to you. And because you cannot change anything anymore, you must let it go because it is a waste of time. I mean, look at the time I was supposed to marry this beautiful, beautiful peahen, and then she chickened out at the altar. I forgave her and never looked back. And then she drowned. Anyways. What benefit does it bring to ruminate on negative feelings, as the cougar will show you? Nothing. It is only a waste of precious energy that you can spend on more constructive things. It is all about forgiveness. Forgive yourself and forgive the others. Put it behind you. No, thank you. This brings me to my second argument. This house would never look back because this way we enjoy our present and it gives us hope for the future. Yes, please.
What do you have to forgive yourself as a peacock?
I have a lot of things to forgive myself as a peacock. Why let go of yesterday? Because yesterday has already let go of you. Yes, when you're dwelling on the past, you miss what's right in front of you. The sun, the sea, Snoop Dogg on the Super Bowl, people. You are neglecting all these tangible things for something that is in your mind. The present is here right now. We have a limited amount of time, so don't dwell on the past. And the real fun is adapting to new every situation. Now, what kind of people brought the earth and humanity further? Forward-thinking people. Think scientists, explorers, inventors. All these people could believe they could achieve the impossible only by striving further and never ever looking back. They wanted to break from the past and destroy its hold on humanity like the panda will demonstrate. God, embrace your inner majestic disco chicken like I did, for God's sake. Be a ship sailing into the future as our whip the arc will show you. In conclusion, this house would never look back because first, it is a waste of time, and second, because it allows us to enjoy our present, savor our present, and look into the future. Start over, start fresh, each day, each hour if you need to, it's what's going to make you happy. And remember, don't look back and ask, why? Look ahead and ask, why not? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and please adopt the motion.
Thank you, Mrs. Peacock, with the speech in the amphitheater. Thank you. Doesn't work. I now welcome the next speaker from Ponts, Aminata.
Dear members of the audience, I am happy to join with you today in what will go down, I am sure, in tonight's FDA's Instagram story as the greatest demonstration for looking back and debating history. Powerful chairperson, thank you for giving me the liberty to debate tonight. Peaceful timekeeper, I am grateful for you too, for making sure we all have equal speaking times. Honorable judges, I am sure you will not judge us by the name of our school, but by the quality of our speeches. Free friends of the government, all men are born equal in rights, but not all debaters in talent, I can see. Inspiring family of the opposition, I look forward to hearing the rest of your speeches tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Back at last. Back at last. I am back at last. Thank you, Your Majesty, for looking back at me and having me back at last. But was I ever gone? You see, on Thursday, 4th of April 1968, on the balcony of a small motel in Memphis, Tennessee, just another Negro among many others was shot dead. But you see, I, Martin Luther King Jr., never died. No, because my dream is still alive. Alive in the pages of your history books, alive in the hearts of the little black girls and little black boys all throughout America, alive on the fists of the oppressed of this world. By having your Grenadier Guards wish me my birthday on MLK Day on the 17th of January this year, you too, Your Majesty, helped keeping the dream alive. So thank you. Now, I haven't protested in a long time, but I almost marched out of this room upon hearing the government rhetoric. Dear Peacock, you said a great many things, but first of all, I see that you are quite lustful. Will you tell me that you have never, upon walking in the street, looked back on other hot peacocks derriere? Not sure about that. Then, you said that you could be a prisoner only by looking back at someone. But don't worry, dear Peacock. Nobody becomes a prisoner only by looking back. I mean, you're not a black person in America. And third, you can actually choose what you look at. You don't have to only look at the regrets. You can look at the good times also. No, no, no. We are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like water and righteousness like a mighty stream. Who said that? Me. Yes?
What is justice?
Justice is a great system that helps us make us free. Indeed, my life, thank you for the amours, is a perpetual fight for justice and freedom. This house, no thank you, would never look back. Well, you're missing out on two important tools to help you win the fight: the why and the how. First, the why. You see, I had a dream that one day my 4 little children would one day live in a world where they would not be judged by the color of their skin but by the content of their character. You know the drill. But look at my 4 children now. 3 of them got to witness the watershed moment in history when a black person became president of the United States of America. This family, descendants of slaves, got to live in a house built by slaves.
On that point,
How wonderful. Yes?
how is everything that you're saying not related to having a dream in the future and hope for the future?
Well, your hopes for the future, you can only make them realize them by looking back in the past and finding your why. Your why is linked to history, and that's what I will show. But you too have witnessed change, haven't you? You know, an old friend of mine used to say that the black woman was the most disrespected person in America. Well, look at now. We have potentially a new black justice, Ketanji Brown Jackson. Such happy days. Let us rejoice together. Please just give a round of applause. Yes. Let's commemorate, let's honor our ancestors and what they did and not take success for granted.
Here.
Why bother do that, you might ask? Because there is still a lot to be done. Police brutality still exists. Not too long ago, we lost Michael Brown of Ferguson, Breonna Taylor of Louisville, George Floyd of Minnesota, and so many more. And you people of the 21st century also have a great dream to make all people equal. But my point is, the task ahead can seem so daunting. You can't let life make you cynical. Sometimes you have to go back to look back in the past in order to see what has been done and find hope. If we did it, why not you? You are not alone. Yes?
Don't you think there's a difference between looking back and actually learning from history and applying it in the present?
How can you learn if you don't look? You are not alone. Let the strength of your ancestors empower you, let their suffering motivate you, and let the wind of history give you momentum. If you know the why for fighting, you can take on almost any challenge. Which brings me to my second point, the how. If you look back, you will know the how. That's what I did. I looked back at Mahatma Gandhi and saw that by peacefully marching in the Salt March in 1930, he had achieved great things. And I did the same. We went marching all over the country, in Selma, Chicago, Montgomery, Birmingham. And you know what, ladies and gentlemen? In 1964 and 1965, we won! Because I learned from the past. So only by looking back, may we move forward. Lastly, as I would thank Her Majesty for inviting me here, and I would like for all of us to look back on the Enlightenment period and Rousseau. The times were not the same, nor the people or the context, but the heart and the burning passion for equality was the same. Dream big, work hard, and Wakanda forever.
Thank you, Aminata, or should I say Dr. King, for your very hopeful speech. I now call upon the next speaker from Assas, Lyna.
I'm ready. Thank you for waiting for me. Dear chairperson, if I don't look back at you, it's only because I'm too nervous in front of your perfection.
Here.
Here. Delicious timekeeper. A bell from you will render me as silent as I am in front of your beauty.
Here.
Distinguished members of the jury, I'm sorry to inform you that I'm going to have to put my glasses on for today because your wisdom just blind me. Fellow members of the government, thank you for the amazing journey we've had together, and I hope this quest will continue on.
Here, here.
Misguided members of the opposition, I hope you won't look back on tonight as a failure, but only a learning experience. Planetful audience, thank you for coming and listening to us tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I'd first like to come back to what Martin Luther King said earlier. First, you said you were still alive, which means you're still in the present. So thank you for that. We are not looking back at you. We're not looking back at you. You're just here with us tonight.
You're here. You're here.
Shame.
I'd like to say that you are still dead in the sense of your physical body. Sorry for that. Because people were looking back in the past. They were on stereotypes. They were prejudiced against black people. That's why you were killed. So they were looking back. And this philosophy of looking back is what got you killed in the first place. When you don't look back, you forget those prejudices, you don't have stereotypes, and then you don't have racism anymore. And that's what Panda will tell you next.
Here.
Looking back is also not what what you tried to argue is not what we mean as looking back. When we look back, it's because we ruminate those feelings. We are in our memories. But learning from history has nothing to do with looking back. We just accumulate knowledge. Of course not. When I'm in my present, I make some mistakes. And I learn from those mistakes. And those mistakes are, those lessons that I took from those mistakes are lessons that I carry with me in my present. That doesn't mean I look back.
Wait for information.
Yes?
How did racism start if it only happens from...
Because
looking
people
back?
like you were looking back.
You're here. Shame.
So, hello guys. I am the cougar. Not a cougar like my mother, who's not here with us tonight. Sorry for those of you who are interested.
Shame.
Shame. So I'm the cougar, clearly way more majestic than a panda or a peacock, which is why I was extremely offended to be lumped with them in the same arc. Have you seen me? Have you seen them? I mean, I still decided to let go of my resentment because my ex-husband is now dead and my new husband is a hot piece of youngling. So that means there is a God after all. This flood is offering all of us a clean slate to move on from our past and fully enjoy our present. As Noah mentioned earlier, my two arguments for tonight will be that this house would never look back because it gives us negative emotions and it paralyzes us and prevents us from seizing the day. So firstly, this house would never look back because looking back only brings us negative emotions. Regrets, remorse, humiliation, trauma, anger, shame are all, dare I say, negative emotions.
Here.
Why should I look back where all of those emotions are waiting me to trap me, to drown me in negativity? I almost drowned in the flood. I'm not going to drown in this ocean of emotions.
Here.
Going back is toxic. And the only toxic I'll accept in my life is from Britney Spears.
Here.
I'd like to take an example to illustrate what I mean. Peacock tried to hit on me earlier. And I was totally disgusted. Like, excuse me, have you seen your reflection lately? If I looked back, then I would remember all of those other instances where dusty males try to hit on me. And then I'd start to question myself. Did they ask me out because they thought I was a 2 out of 10, like them? So, what's the point? It brings me no good to look back. I'd just be disgusted and feel bad about myself. Some people might say, sure, yes, but I also have great memories in my past. And those people, I say that's true, that's absolutely true, but nostalgia is not good. Taking my marriages, for example. Looking back to the good old times with my first husband would haunt my new marriage and poison it with comparison. Or I just think it's never going to be as good as it was. Plus, as Panda will further explain later, I'm probably embellishing all of those nice memories in my mind. So it brings me nothing good to look back. Second, this house would never look back because looking back paralyzes us and prevents us from seizing the day.
Here, here.
When we look back, all the negative emotions and memories paralyze us. What if I make the wrong choice again? It scares us. If I'm looking at good memories, then I wonder, what's the point in trying? And it will never be as good as it was. We only feel good when we don't choose anything. We become readers in our own lives instead of taking our pens and writing our own future.
Here.
If I had looked back, the trauma of my first divorce would have stopped me from marrying my new husband. What's the point in trying? Am I not marriage material? Isn't love worth it? The true question here is, what's the point in asking myself all of that? I can't see the future. I can only seize the day, as Peacock said.
Here.
I can say, if all goes wrong, that I at least tried. I was not paralyzed by fear. I did not forget to live my life. I was brave, and I have no regrets because my life is mine. In conclusion, this house would never look back because it only brings us negative emotion and because it paralyzes us. So please, remember, don't look back and ask why. Look ahead and ask why not. Please adopt the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Cougar, for your ferocious speech. I'll now call upon the next speaker from Ponts, Matthieu.
Dear Chairman, I'm sure your great wisdom comes from all the debates you've seen. Dear Bell person, I'm sure you know that you can only see the time that has passed and not the time before us. Dear judges, I hope you will have tonight the time to look back at each of our speeches in order to take the best decision. Dear proposition, I hope you will look back to your performance tonight in order to be better next year. Dear opposition, dear audience, good evening. Let me introduce myself. I am Jean-Jacques Rousseau, a great philosopher, and contrary to the government's duplicitous motion, this house would look back. That house here places restriction on the dissemination of knowledge. That house refuses to look back on things that have been demonstrated, and they refuses criticism. That house will never look back. But we would. All my life, I fought against obscurantism, such as that shown by the proposition. For those among you who don't know the definition, obscurantism advocates an attitude of negation of knowledge. And so, dear Cougar, I think you're being a little bit naive. You say that you would not look back because there will be comparison between your, I don't know how many there was, how many husbands you had, but I think that the reason why you choose an husband which was fresh meat, which was different, the reason why you choose him different is because you look back actually. You look back and you say, I don't want that anymore. Thank you. So let me begin with a subject that I love, because actually I'm the father of representative democracy, elections. I'm sure many of you will go to the polling station 3 weeks from now. And you will vote. And so, what's vote? vote is about look back at the actions of the government in the previous years and to ask ourselves whether we should keep the same government or not.
On that point,
yes.
What about when Rousseau in the Contrat Social said that because the people are sovereign, only their future matters?
I'm not quite sure that you understood the motion. Motion is not about future and about if it matters. The motion is, should we look in the past? And we have to look in the past in matters of elections, because sometimes you get Donald Trump. And when you get Donald Trump, and so after 4 years of Donald Trump, you may wonder, well, maybe that was a mistake. And so maybe I won't vote for Donald Trump again, and that's good, thank you. So I think the House votes for Trump. And so,
On that point,
no, sorry. So anyone who would vote actually for the motion must have Stockholm syndrome, because they believe we would just have just stuck, not in our past, but with Donald forever. So looking back is about correcting the mistakes we made in order to move forward. Only by looking back can we move forward. Yes.
Isn't Donald Trump advocating to look back when he says "Make America Great Again"?
Here.
Yes. Well.
Yeah.
And so what? I'm just telling that I'm thankful that we have elections in order to have the best democracy. And so I was a Democrat. I strongly defended the importance in politics to be careful of what people think and of what people want, in order for them to make a contract, in order for the general will to be expressed as well as possible. And so democracy allows you to look back periodically and decide whether or not to change direction going forward. A vote for the proposition is a vote against democracy. Yes.
Wasn't Rousseau against the election? He was for direct representation.
Actually, I was for direct representation, but I was also realist, because I look back on history and I said, well, representative elections, when you're 60 millions, I think it's impossible. So that's the price to pay. And so after democracy, as a man of the Enlightenment, I must address the most important subject, science. And so the scientific method uses observation, experimentation to describe and explain natural phenomena. And so without the desire to look back, we would not have developed geology, we would not have developed paleontology, we would not have developed the theory of evolution. These sciences are only made possible by mining the past for all the clues necessary to our present understanding. We will still believe the Earth is 6,000 years old. If it weren't for the fact that James Hutton used rock samples to look back in time and discover the geological processes that surround us, we will still believe that fossils were the bones of dragons. We would not have the theory of evolution. Last but not least, let us talk about looking back in relation to justice and the legal system, which I have always considered as of the utmost importance. I'm sure you, students of Assas, know a lot about laws, but I'm also sure that in the future you will need to use jurisprudence to win in court. By definition, jurisprudence means looking back to prior judgments in order to make actual judgments. From the motion, it sounds as if you do not believe in jurisprudence, and it makes me wonder if you will pass the exam. You are lying both to the audience and to yourself when you say that you will never look back. And so, on the subject of justice, would you agree that there are injustices and that need to be fixed? Thank you. And so, dear audience and judges, as you've seen, looking back is necessary in the realms of democracy, science, and justice. A vote for the proposition is a vote against these important pillars of our civilization. It is a vote against our civilization. Please remember that only by looking back can we move forward. Please reject the motion.
Thank you, Matthieu Rayan. À voter. Now I'll welcome Rayan Stefan.
Okay. Dear Chairperson, I hope that Noah makes us sit together in the yard. Dear Timekeeper, because time only moves forward and never looks back. I know that you will understand us the most. Members of the jury, I know that you are fair, and this is why you will never look back at your decision. My friends of the government, the ark sails forward, and together we will reach the new world. Members of the opposition, thank you for having us here in Palaiseau. As a panda, I'm very happy to smell wood in this amphitheater. And last but not least, dear audience, thank you for coming here. I hope that we are as entertaining as we are convincing. Good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, as you all understood, I am a panda. When I was young, I used to be bullied at school because people thought that I was fat. But now that I know that I just had big bones, I'm not looking back at this time, and I'm enjoying the present. So here I am on the ark, and Noah gave me this lady panda, but I don't really know what to do with her, so maybe instead I'll talk about the opposition's arguments. Now, your opposition, especially Rousseau, philosophy, but my idol Kung Fu Panda once said that yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. And this is why we call it the present. Maybe Noah, I think Noah was very clear when he said that the motion is not that this house would never learn. We want to learn. When I read my notes right now, I'm not looking back at the work that I did. No, I'm reading the notes that I know and that I have in my mind. And so, when you say that the cougar looked back to have better new husbands, that's not what she's doing. She just learned in the present when it happened, and she's using this knowledge to create a better future. You know, we all look at facts, and because facts are independent, we are learning those facts. We're not looking back. I'm not looking back at something that hurt me. I'm not looking back at something that created some nostalgia. And this is the same thing for the jurisprudence, you know. Thank you for the personal attack, but you know, jurisprudence is learning in the present, and we are using in the present this knowledge that we have acquired. It is in human nature to use this present, to use this knowledge. It's not looking back, and this is why we created this expression of looking back. Otherwise, we would just said learned or history and not created this term. Now, let's get down to the interesting stuff. My first argument is that looking back creates prejudice and stereotypes. And my second argument is that looking forward pushes societies forward. Philosopher Nietzsche, because you like philosopher, once said that without oblivion, there can be no happiness, no peace, no present. And this is extremely true, and if you think about it, the only people that are always happy are children. Children are always happy because they live without a care in the world simply because they have nothing to look back to. On the other hand, people that look back become prejudiced because of their past. Take my Uncle Panda, for example. Once, he got his heart broken by a monkey, and now, since then, he's hated all monkeys. And you, MLK, out of all people, should understand why this is a bad thing. Like, so the moral of the story is that not all monkeys are bad, and that by looking back, my uncle deformed the present. Yes?
Always looking at Nietzsche from the past, not looking back.
Here.
No, as I just told you when I was doing my rebuttal, the motion is not this house would never learn. We learned from Nietzsche, and I'm reading him right now in the present. I'm not looking back. I'm not looking back at the time when we were together. So in fact, most conflicts in the world are created by man looking back. You know, when bears announced their invasion of Peacock Land, they used excuses about how peacocks once did something bad to them, deforming history. And so, looking back makes a person become prejudiced and make them stuck in the past, just like Cougar told you.
Please?
Yes.
Young man, if you don't look back in the past, how can
I'm a panda.
If you don't look back in the past, how can you correct people's thoughts today?
Exactly, just like Peacock told you, when we live in the present, we take this knowledge. For example, when I use language, I'm not looking back at the time my mom taught me how to speak. No, I'm using this thing that I learned in the present. Now, this brings me to my second argument, which is that looking forward pushes societies forward. Beautiful stories are created by people that only look forward. Take Nelson Mandela, for example. When he became president and took power, he had a choice. Either look back at all the hate and suffering that happened in his country, or create the beautiful South Africa that we know and love today.
Hear, hear.
You know, looking back hinders societies. My grandma constantly looks back and tells me about how before was better. But grandma, before was not better. Before was terrible. Female pandas never got to vote. No one had access to education or to education, and I never got attention on TV. So I asked myself, what changed? What happened? What helped us move forward as a society? And then Peacock told me, people like Noah, innovators, pathfinders. For instance, when Carl Benz invented the motor car, do you think he sided with the opposition? Do you think he looked back at horses and says, wow, look, horses are amazing, let's stay in that past? No. He created cars and created an amazing future that we are living in today. And this is the type of society that we are trying to build. A society of progress and innovation. A society of opportunities and free bamboo for everyone. So ladies and gentlemen, especially dear members of the jury, please remember, don't look back and ask why. Look ahead and ask why not. Please adopt the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Panda, for your nice brown fuzzy speech. I will now invite the next speaker from Ponts, Eloi. While on his way up here, I should remind everyone that when you ask a point of information, it's customary to stand up and with your arm outstretched and say very clearly, point of information, and so that it's known that you are asking a point of information.
Estimated Chairman, it is a pleasure to be illuminated by your presence and virtues tonight. Precise timekeeper, I hope you'll forgive us for putting time upside down. Wise judges, I place my faith in you, for the superior man does not set his mind against anything or for anything. He will pursue whatever is right. Dear government, a fool despises good counsel, but a wise man takes it to heart. As I am sure you are wise, I hope you'll be able to take our counsel to heart. Inspire the opposition, to know your faults and to change it is the greatest virtue. And it is one we share, and it is one we'll share with the audience tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. When the dragon's tail is long, the tiger's mouth is welcoming. Sorry, wrong note. What I meant to say was, study the past if you will define the future. Life is a cycle, and only by looking back may we move forward. In this faraway land, I believe I am known as Confucius. And I would like to thank Rousseau for using my knowledge to create a wisdom of his own. But I would also like to thank Panda for giving us all the occasion to learn from someone else's mistakes.
Hear, hear.
Yay. Indeed. Panda, I understand you could be afraid of racism since you're, you know, Asian, black and white, but it's okay. You all said that you are the sum of your past, but I know you tend to be self-centered, but please, learn that you can learn from others' past, from looking back.
Hear, hear.
Sometimes it's called books. Yeah, it's very great.
Hear, hear.
As I gaze around this beautiful civilization, I admire the progress that was made. ethically, technologically, and politically. But despite all this progress, I see shallow relationships, minds affected by social media, and despite having an infinity of ways of communicating, people are getting increasingly lonely. According to a survey performed by global health service company Célia, around 50% of the participants among Gen Z feel disconnected from others, which is an all-time record.
On that point, sir.
Yes?
What about psychologists that say that you need to let go of your past in order to move on?
Other psychologists say that you need to understand your past to move on.
Here, here.
And I feel like they're right. And by comparing it to my epocha, I wonder, how did we get there? When did we forget things as simple as having healthy relationships? But then I hear some people say they would never look back. And I understand. As I once said, if a man takes no thought about what is distant, he will find sorrow near at hand. By never looking back, you can never have an understanding of the present and the future. So the future will be something you enjoy. Allow me to repeat myself. Study the past if you would define the future.
On that point, sir?
Yes.
You said life is a cycle, but if it's a cycle and when you look back you learn from it, then why is it just the same again and again? I thought you were defining your future by looking back, but it doesn't work. If
it's a cycle that expands by looking back, you get to broaden your horizons.
Here.
But rather than simply showing the disastrous consequences of never looking back, I'd like to give you a sense of how looking back is a necessary component of getting wisdom. By 3 methods, we may learn wisdom. First, by reflection. Second, by imitation, which is easiest. And third, by experience, which is the bitterest. First, in reflection, there is the symbol of the mirror. You look at your reflection, and your reflection looks back at you. There is no reflection without looking back. Second, in imitation, there is only so much you can imitate from those who share the present with you. The past offers a lot more choice. Thus, it is essential to sometimes look back. Third and last, when learning through experience, if you don't want to let your past determine your destiny, you have to dominate your past, reject your regrets, and accept the teachings of experience. Only by looking back may we move forward.
Here.
Now that you have seen how disastrous never looking back can be, and how important to knowledge looking back is, you have to ask yourself, who's the man in control of his life and future? He who chooses to never ever face his past, stuck in a never-lasting flight to the front, or he who accepts to look back, who faces, understands, and dominates his past? Which is it? Tell me. You may be afraid of looking back, but only the wisest and the stupidest of men never change. I have faith that you are not among the stupidest, and can accept that looking back can help us all, and that never looking back is a grave mistake. All the lessons we have learned through this journey are valuable, but to know and to do are 2 different things. Life is a cycle, and through the night we have been following the thread of time in the other direction, and it takes us back to the present. Our next speaker, Malala, is the living testimony that you can do both. If there was someone I would like to look back to, it would be none other than her. Please reject the motion.
Thank you, Confucius, for your very philosophical speech. I sympathize with you as a rather tall person at these wonderfully low podiums.
Shame.
maybe someday we'll get a little taller ones. I would now call our next speaker from Assas, final speaker for Assas, Célia.
Here.
Sweet chairperson, I have seen some amazing sights in my time, but even the peacock's tail is nothing compared to your charm. Delicious timekeeper, you, master of past, present, and future, must know more than anyone why we should not look back.
Here.
Distinguished members of the jury, why would I ever look back when the most important is right in front of me? Here. Dear passengers of the government, please fasten your seatbelts because we are about to do some whipping.
Here.
Misguided members of the opposition, a nice little session in therapy and you will stop looking back. Don't be shy and ask for help. Numerous audience, let's not wait and get started, shall we? Good evening. I am the Ark. Sadly, everybody seems to forget me. It's always about Noah and never about the Ark. But after all, I am made of good, hard wood.
Here.
I don't see why I shouldn't get to look in. I contain all the animals, all the hope, all the stories, and that's why I can tell you why we should absolutely never look back. So let me sum up what we said before the arguments of the opposition sink. Oh, it's already too late. No, we can throw you life jackets if you wish. I have identified in this debate 3 points of clash, though it is kind of hard to make the difference between each one of your arguments. I admit that I have trouble because you're always kind of saying that looking back allows us to learn, which appears as one single argument to me.
Here.
The first point of clash is simply on the definition. Is learning from the past looking back? This motion is not, as my passengers told you, this house could never learn. We have no problem learning, we have no problem with factual knowledge. In fact, everything that we know right now has been demonstrated before us. Language, mathematics, time has been demonstrated before us. That doesn't mean we don't have to, we acknowledge our past. We have no problem learning. That, as Kruger explained to you. Your speaker, Rousseau, and Confucius, talk about how we need to look back to learn, but in fact we don't need to look back to learn. This is just scientific knowledge. We just have to accept it, and we have no problem with it.
Here.
The second point of clash is, can looking back help us plan a better future? Your speaker, Martin Luther King, is always about progress and dream and hope. Your speaker could be very good in our team. I like him.
Here.
In fact, yes.
What are you building the future upon if not looking back?
I'm building the future upon the present and what I believe is best for me and other people around me. Absolutely on the past. And Martin Luther King showed it very good. Why is there still racism today? Because people are looking back. We need to move forward. We need to dream, to have hope. And thank you for demonstrating that to us. Thank you for Martin Luther King and other guys like you for having dream for our societies and hope for us. This is really nice of you. This is and often our recall of the past is not rational. So looking back traps us.
For information, please.
Yes.
If you're so quick to dismiss the problems at hand and you want to move on, are you not disregarding the situation right now?
Absolutely not. I'm just not dwelling on the past. As our Prime Minister told you, we would not look back, which means we will not dwell on the past. Yes, there is still racism today. What can we do to change it in the future? Simply as that.
Here. Information.
No, thank you. Our recall of the past is fake, and it's an argument for the racism thing because of our recall of the past. Our recall of the past is fake today and irrational, and that's why Sir Panda explained it to you. He said that looking back holds civilization back and creates prejudice.
but we want to build our future on brand new basis. With a special diet for you, Panda, and a new heavyweight gym. In fact, your Prime Minister, the Queen, is supposed to be politically neutral. If she was looking back, she would have never crossed his government. Never. How dare you?
Shame.
But I will allow you to stop looking back, because I'm nice today. And our third point of clash is about wasting our time. This is mathematics. When you start looking back, you don't look ahead, you don't look in the present, you don't look in the future. You can't do both in the same time.
Points of information.
So, no thank you. So whenever you are looking back, you are not looking ahead. No thank you. And we, as Peacock explained to you.
Information?
Yes.
What about Janus?
What do you mean?
What about Janus? Isn't he both looking at the past and also at the same time at the next year to come with his two faces?
Well, I don't have two faces, and neither do you, so I guess you have. That's why Peacock explained to you, we have a limited amount of time, and we cannot do both in the same time. We can learn from our mistakes. It's okay, we have this as a general knowledge, and then we move on. And Cougar actually showed you that...
For information, please?
No, thank you. Cougar actually showed you that looking back only brings negative feeling. I can only feel for you, dear Lady Elizabeth, for the loss of your husband. Because if you were only looking back, you would just feel sad, and I really hope for you to move forward, maybe go to therapy and move on. You're not that old, you can still get a new man. You should listen to Cougar, she has great So in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, the opposition, we tried repeatedly to build something on a rotten structure. We want to build something new. We want to build a new world. We want to progress and to evolve. Let go of everything that is holding you back. Free yourselves from the narrow world of the opposition. The past will always be there, just like the opposition, trying to trap you. But don't be fooled. Stop wasting your time. The present will not wait, and the future is still in your hand. So don't look back and ask why. Look ahead and ask why not. Ladies and gentlemen, please adopt the motion.
Thank you, Célia, the talking arc, for your speech. I will now call upon the final speaker of the debate tonight, Jérémie.
Okay, it's fine. Yeah. Honorable Chairperson, from all the bright minds we've met tonight, you are the most inspiring to me.
Here, here.
Keeper, if I ever run too long, take the time to look back on good memories. We're having a great time after all. Esteemed members of the jury, no need to look back on propositions mistake. I'm here to sum them up for you. Dear government, I must say it's a real pleasure to meet you again. But please, I quote the chairperson, don't look back in anger if we end up beating you tonight. Dear inspiring colleagues, ladies and gentlemen from the audience, good evening. I am Malala Yousafzai, the 2014 Nobel Prize winner and Pakistani women rights activist. I am here today to talk to you about how you can change the world as the people who have come before you. Aren't they inspiring? Or should I say, weren't they inspiring?
You're here.
Looking back on uplifting figures will be a point of my speech. But first, let me go over some of the arguments that have been made. Forgive my rudeness, dear proposition, but I will start by looking back at the work of the people who first inspired my struggles. Think of it as a tribute. To begin with, let's talk about Her Majesty the Queen. You were splendid. Perfect definition of the subject, and you are absolutely right.
Shame!
Even despite my young age and my more than active life, it is always a pleasure to look back on happy memories. They are the ones that forge us as human beings, and allow us to appreciate life as it comes. And seize the moment. Yeah. Then we had Martin Luther King. I would like to say that it is an honor to have you here. It is so reassuring in our daily struggles to see what has been achieved so far.
On that point, sir.
Yes, please?
How did the Queen share your struggles when she was the head of a colonial empire?
Well, actually, don't you say that we shouldn't be bitter about the past? Like, I just see the positive points she made and try to inspire myself. What you said about looking at one's life to get out of oppression echoes very much with my motivations. It is true that looking at the past in order not to repeat the same mistakes does not only apply on an individual level, but also on a societal level. About that idea, Henry Ford said, "The only real mistake is the one from which we learn nothing." Maybe that's what you make the opposition. Then came Rousseau. He was a pillar of the Enlightenment, and he made a strong case for all our discoveries were rooted in the past. And finally, we had the opportunity to listen to Confucius, who shared us his wisdom. If his predecessors were more focused on society, his speech was about how taking a step back from your personal life and relationships is necessary to try to achieve happiness.
On that point, sir.
Yes, please?
How is holding a grudge and dwelling on it giving you wisdom?
I'm not holding grudges. Actually, I can look at the past without being bitter and look at all the grudges.
You're here.
You're here.
To never look back is very selfish. For all the people you left behind when you succeed in life or when you find happiness, do you think that I stopped looking over my shoulder, and thanks for minding my torticolis, and gave up my fight the moment I was given attention or visibility? No! That's even when I started. And that's why I want to come back to some of the points that the government has made. First, Noah. Looking back is dwelling from the past. No! Looking back is knowing that your past exists and learning from it, as you said.
You're here.
You are ruminating negative feelings. Why necessarily negative? Of course, you never look back when you consider that all your memories are negative. But then, it doesn't mean that you're moving forward. It just means that you are bitter.
You're here.
Shame.
And you said then that looking back builds stereotypes based on the panda's speech. No, looking at history helps you fight stereotypes.
On that point,
culture, no, thank you. Culture helps you fight stereotypes, and culture doesn't build by looking forward and leaving populations behind while moving on. And then Mr. Peacock. No, thank you. You said that your boat was full. You are the person that needs to be saved, not you. No, not us. And you said that every moment was present at a time. Sure, that's how time works. But now these moments are gone. Either you learn things from them,
On that point, sir.
or they happen for nothing. No, thank you. You seem harassed as a little chicken by beautiful birds. You seem a bit moved for someone that is not dwelling the past. And you said then that looking back was a loss of time. You are a peacock. Of course, there is no use looking back when your only purpose in life is to scream the next morning.
Shame.
But I have different goals. The juries have different goals. Everyone has different goals and wants to be the hero of his own life by looking back at his past. Or they can scream in the morning. Then, Miss Kruger. You said that Martin Luther was in the present. Well, let me get back to reality. Do you have a time machine? Well, would you take me on for a ride, please? You learn from mistakes in the present. That must be great for you. Either you're brilliant or maybe your self-esteem matches your beauty. You seem to have a hard time facing your bad memories, though. Do you need therapy? You spoke about therapy. And why did you reject that poor peacock? He has left his past behind, forgotten all of the criticism he had as a child to make a move, and see what the result is. He can only look back at your memory in bitterness. Mr. Penda, you always refer to the Bible and Noah. Wasn't the Bible a book meant for people to look back in time? And if you're a Penda, no, thank you. If you're a panda, just mind that Noah saved you, and in thousands of years, you haven't understood how to mate. Zoos are displaying pornography so that you can learn how to mate. And you call that learning instead of looking back? I don't know.
Here.
I'm sorry. Today, you all have the opportunity to speak out to lead a revolution. So, what are you waiting for to take the place of the people you see in history books?
You're here.
So, learn from the past, stand up for your life, and please reject the motion.
Thank you, Jérémie, or should I say Malala? You've changed a bit since we last saw you. Well, that brings this excellent debate to a close. So, when the members of the jury are ready, I'll guide them to the room where they will do their deliberation, and we can open this debate to the floor.